Recently, I've been watching a few videos from fellow Football Manager YouTuber Clates FM, who's been running a new series on his channel where he acts as a director of football in his FM saves as opposed to an actual football manager. Since then, on my own outside of YouTube, I've been trying to do a few of these saves and they're actually very fun. So in today's video, I'll be showing you how you can kind of become a director of football in FM23. Hello everyone, Jake here for FMSCOUT, and as mentioned today, I'll be showing you how you can become a director of football in FM. Not fully, of course, because this is Football Manager 23, not Director of Football 23, so it's not completely perfect, but I'll show you two methods, one of which is the less ideal method if you don't have the in-game editor, and the other one, if you've bought the in-game editor, I'll show you a method that you can do there also. But before I start, big credit to Clates FM. I don't know if anyone else on YouTube has done this kind of Director of Football series, but he was the one that I saw. So big shout out to him. He's doing a series with Tottenham at the minute, and if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. Great stuff over there. And whilst you're going down to that description, smash the like button for us, subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments your thoughts on this Director of Football thing. Is it something you'd like to see as a new game mode in Football Manager going forward? Obviously, we're not the people that can make that happen, but it would be very interesting to hear if there's a kind of market for it, because to be honest, since I started doing it, I'm absolutely loving it, and I think it's great fun. So without further ado, we'll get into it. So all you're going to need to do is take over a club, whoever it might be, Juventus, Tottenham, Chelsea, or even, a 5th division club. And obviously when you start, you are not director of football, you are going to be the manager of said club. I've taken Juventus here as an example, but many of you may or may not know about the staff responsibilities section. Now in here, if we skip this tutorial, which I've done plenty of times, so I don't know why it's coming up, but in the staff section, if you go to the responsibilities tab, you can delegate your tasks to staff members. And what you kind of do for this director of football method is you delegate all of the manager side of things to your assistant manager, and you'll take over on the transfers. So in this case, if we were doing a director of football save, really, even though it's not written on paper, the real manager of Juventus is really going to be the assistant, in this case Marco Landucci, and I will show you how you can appoint your manager in a little bit of time, but first let's cover these responsibilities and the ones that you're going to want to change. Firstly, go down to the match section, you're going to delegate all of this to your assistant manager, friendlies, team talks, touchline instructions, delegate, hit confirm, and then the assistant manager will take charge of those jobs. Tactics, you'll do the same, delegate everything on that screen. The only ones that really matter are the first team ones. We're not bothered about the B team instructions, but of course he's going to be in charge of our Juventus first team. Training, same situation. You're going to want to delegate your training over because a director of football doesn't do that. You can go ahead and delegate the media. You can delegate the staff situation if you want to, even the scouting if you really wanted to, but realistically the thing you're going to control will be player recruitment. So scouting, transfers and contracts, these are the things you would like to stay in charge of. So we hand over all the other reins of the club, the keys of the kingdom if you will, to your assistant, and you will take charge of all of this. Those responsibilities that we just set are going to apply for the method with and without the editor, but now we're going to get into the specifics a little bit and start off with the without the editor method. Now a big part of being a director of football is both transfers, scouting, recruitment and all of that, but of course in these saves you're also in charge of who your manager is. Now when you don't have the editor, you are a little bit limited to the fact that you're going to have a realistic assistant manager appointment, and what I mean by that is, if you're Juventus here, like we are, we're not going to be able to get Pep Guardiola to be our assistant manager at Juve, because as far as the game's concerned, he's not going to want to drop down to be an assistant manager, even though technically he is the manager in terms of the responsibilities. The game doesn't see it that way. So that does kind of mean you are very limited in terms of who you can appoint. But what you'll be looking for in your assistant manager is maybe you just want to pick a name and then build a squad for them. You might sign players for their preferred tactic, and that should be noted when you holiday, if you do all of this correctly, these assistant managers will be doing the tactics that they prefer the most or that they think suit the squad the most. So you are going to want to consider their formations when recruiting, but you might take a look and go, okay, he's been assistant manager at Juve, he could do the job as Juventus manager. Because he is kind of acting as a manager, you can always judge it by clicking on this manager section here, and you can see their attributes as a manager. And actually Marco Landucci here could potentially do a decent job. Now you're going to want to try and get your recruitment right, of course, because if you fail to meet your club vision objectives, even though it's not not necessarily you that's really the manager. As far as the game's concerned, you are, and you could potentially get sacked. So you need to try and get your appointment right. And when it comes to your appointment, you have a few choices. You could go out there and staff search for anyone willing to be an assistant manager, or what Clates did in his videos, and what I think makes the most sense is if you didn't want Marco Landucci here, you could go ahead and terminate his contract. This is going to cost us a hell of a lot of money, and I know it's not ideal, but we'll just do it for the sake of this tutorial. If we forward ahead now, you can see that we have lost our assistant manager, and what you can then do, like I say, is either go out and staff search for an assistant manager, or place advert for coaching assistant manager role, and then judge the recruits that come through. Here you go, I've holidayed ahead a few days, and we've got some potential candidates. You could then go through and take a look at them, try and assess which ones are right for your team. Maybe you really like the idea of Lugio Riccio here, playing a 4-2-3-1. You can check out his past and see who he's played for, where he's done jobs for before. Looks like he's had a pretty reputable career in assistant management so far, so maybe he could be a good pick. Maybe you go for Rafael Alcorta. Either way, you're going to pick your choice, offer him the contract, and once all those responsibilities are in place, he will be taken over as your assistant manager. You've got a few choices of where you want to go from there. Obviously, when you're in a transfer window, you want to be around pretty much every day until you get to a match day, and then you'll holiday. If you don't know how to holiday, go to the home screen, My Profile, go on holiday, and then you're going to just basically go on holiday for one day. When it's match day, the game will basically forward ahead a day, the assistant manager will take control, and hopefully you'll come out with some wins and keep your job. But make sure you don't have this button ticked here or this button, because then the assistant manager will use whatever players and tactics you've picked, and of course you want them to do the job. In this case, you're only a director of football, not a manager. Outside of that though, outside of transfer windows, you could either just holiday between transfer windows, or if you want to be more direct, you can keep an eye, simulate every day and holiday the match days, as we've already mentioned, to see whether your manager's doing a good job, whether you need to terminate their contract, and all of that good stuff. And then you can have a director of football save, where you're focused purely on making the transfers, finding the right appointment for your club. But as mentioned, this is a less than ideal method. The method I prefer involves the in-game editor, and there's two reasons for this. The first one is because you're a director of football, do you really want to be judged on the manager's performance and get sacked because of it? It feels a bit harsh to be punished for performances on the pitch that aren't really down to you. So what you could do if you wanted is, if you have the editor, go to the home screen. From there, click the editor button and then choose become unsackable. From there, no matter how your club does, you won't get sacked as the director of football, or manager in this case. That way, if there's ever bad form, instead of you getting sacked, instead you can get rid of your assistant manager and play it like a real director of football would. But the other benefit of the editor comes with choosing your manager. Now, as we know, we are very limited when we don't have the editor in terms of who we can appoint, because as mentioned, Guardiola, Klopp, they're not going to want to come along and be the assistant manager at Juve, even though we know they're technically not. The game doesn't understand that. With the editor though, you can bypass this. What you could do is find a manager that you want. Maybe you can do it through the staff search screen that you think could be a realistic appointment for Juventus. You do have to use your judgment here to realise, if you're playing with Rotherham, that Pep Guardiola isn't going to want to come and manage Rotherham. If you want to keep it realistic, try and find coaches at that kind of level and bring them in. Let's say with Juventus here, we decided, you know what, let's give Luis Enrique a job. Obviously, if you went ahead and actually just offered him the assistant manager's role, that is not going to be something that he's interested in. You can see straight away there is no job at Juventus to interest him, because he's good enough to be a first team manager. What that doesn't stop us doing though is using the in-game editor, choosing move to my club, and then going and giving him that assistant manager job. We're going to click OK, and then if we forward ahead a day, you might even be there already. There you go. After doing that, Luis Enrique has become our assistant manager at Juventus. The only real drawback here though is if a real club comes along and offers him a management job, even if it's a worse club than Juventus, he might see it as, okay, I can go from being assistant manager to a manager, because as mentioned, he doesn't realise he's a manager in game. He still thinks we are, even though we're the director of football. But what you could do if you wanted to stop this happening is go to edit club contract details. Make sure you're always extending this to the maximum length, because that's going to increase the compensation any club would have to pay. And if you do this, you can kind of keep on top of your manager, or even go as far as, if he does get offered a job, you can actually just go in with with the editor and bring him straight back to be the manager again. So this is how you can do a director of football save. Again, it's not completely perfect, but it does work really well. It is great fun because you can just focus on the squad building element of everything and then forward ahead to let anyone know when you are holidaying, the amount of leagues you have loaded will slow your holidaying down. So make sure if you're going to do a director of football save, unless you're working on a supercomputer, probably a good idea to only have 2 or 3 leagues loaded. You can increase your database of players in your games without loading more leagues, and that means it will still run pretty quick. So do bear that in mind. Don't feel like you're not allowed to have many players in your saves. It's all just about which leagues you have loaded in full detail. If you have too many of those, it's going to slow your game down, and that's only really if you're a manager and you're looking to manage in those leagues at some point. But being a director of football, we're stuck at Juve, we're doing our job here, so we don't need to worry about looking for jobs in other countries. Unless you wanted to do a Road to Glory director of football method and go between clubs, the better you do. I don't know, whatever you want to try, feel free to, but this is how you can kind of act as a director of football. I think it's great fun, definitely worth a try. Again, big shout out to Clates, check his channel out down below, and don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more, let me know who you'll be a director of football of first in FM23, and have a great day. Thank you everyone, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.